Good evening. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now, Kentucky. We do have a critical alert day issued for Sunday night going into Monday, of course, for the big event that we're expecting to see throughout late Sunday going into Monday. And yes, before we get into everything, there is another severe risk on Wednesday and potentially again on next Saturday. So we have a lot to cover here. We're going to only focus on Sunday and Monday. When we get active patterns like this, I usually like to take it one storm at a time. And the reason for that is, of course, if we start talking about too many storms, a lot of details can get confused. So I've seen a lot of outlets already posting about Wednesday and Saturday, but next Saturday, not this Saturday coming up, but next Saturday. And while yes, there is the possibility for severe weather throughout the extended period, I like to take this one thing at a time because again, a lot of details can get lost on if you start talking about too many events at one time. So before we get started, I just want to pre-fire this. Please do not ask me about Wednesday. Please do not ask me about next Saturday because we're only going to cover Sunday and Monday in this video. And then, of course, as we get a little bit further down the road, we'll talk more about Wednesday, and I might make a brief mention of it. But once again, I think in this video, it's best to cover only Sunday and Monday, which is quite the significant threat in my eyes. We've been watching this for about a week now evolve on model data, and I've been hesitant to talk about it too much because throughout the entire time it's looked quite potent, if you will. Now that we're getting a bit closer, we're starting to get better information in. I think the storm is making landfall either here soon or already has. I have to look at the satellite here. So we'll start to get even better information in throughout the late night and overnight hours. I bet you by tomorrow morning, we'll have a really, really solid idea on what to expect for Sunday night into Monday, which, again, in my eyes, looks to be probably our biggest threat to date, statewide at least. Again, talking about this year, of course. I think it's safe to say it's our biggest threat statewide this year. I don't think that's a hyperbole at all. Before we do dive into the information, I want to say thank you to everyone that's sharing the broadcast already. If you haven't already, please tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen. That helps us grow. It also helps to get this information out to your news feed so that your friends and family can view it. I know there's a lot of different information spewing around right now. So it's our goal to try and clean some of that up. And I do want to, again, point out before we do start diving into all the information, of course, I got all the forecasts to show you, all the models, so on and so forth. But before we dive into that, I just want to say, for weekends like this and the pattern that we're going into, guys, pick two or three people you trust and tune everyone else out. Because there is going to be a lot of information thrown at you on the internet, not only for the event coming up Sunday and Monday, but for the possibility for severe weather on Wednesday and next Saturday. So, the biggest piece of advice I can give you guys, even if it's not me, okay, pick two or three folks that you trust or outlets that you trust and stick with that. Mute everything else, block everything else, whatever it might be. Because what's going to start happening is you're going to start getting confused, whether you mean to or not, on the different details for the different days. So again, my advice to everyone, always when they ask me, pick two or three that you trust, even if it isn't us at WNK. Again, pick two or three, stick with those, tune everything else out. I really mean that. Because there's a lot of you folks with storm anxiety, and rightfully so. And all you're going to do by going to 7 or 8 different sources, you're just going to get yourself all worked up. My other piece of advice, do not follow any national sources, like the Weather Channel or AccuWeather or anything like that. They are not focused on Kentucky. All right, not saying they're bad outlets, but you're not going to get that focus that you need to that you should get. All right. That said, again, thank you to everyone that's sharing the broadcast. I'm seeing all the shares and likes coming through. Thank you guys again so much. I appreciate that. Again, thank you guys a lot for helping us to spread our information out. So we do have a day 3 risk here from the National Weather Service. We're looking at the WeatherWise radar here, and it does show a hatched area pretty much to include about 70% of Kentucky. Zoom in on that just a little bit here, kind of break it down a little bit more from you. So it's basically the I-64 corridor, I-75 corridor to the points west here. And again, pretty much includes everywhere from Lexington to Louisville to Owensboro to Elizabethtown to Bowling Green, Madisonville, Paducah. So if you're going to ask me off the rip here, am I included in a severe risk? Generally, everyone in Kentucky is included in a severe risk. It's the more east you go, or I'm sorry, the more west you go, that of course you find yourself in the better target zone. And that's about how it always goes here. Very rarely are you ever going to have higher severe probabilities in eastern Kentucky because the terrain over there does not allow for it typically. All right, so the more west you go, the better the topography and geography is for severe weather to exist. So that's just a good basic rule of thumb. I will tell you that having a day 3 hatched area like this is quite significant. And it's pretty rare. All right, I think it's only happened once or twice in Kentucky the last 2 or 3 years where we have a day 3 hatched area, and you're gonna see this and think, "Oh my God, it's a tornado outbreak." I don't actually think. By the way, do not. I forgot to update that. Whoops. Do not pay attention to the wording at the bottom of the screen there. Let me go ahead and turn that off. Thank you. I forgot to update that from the last broadcast. But I don't want you to see this and immediately think a massive, major historical tornado outbreak is going to occur. I actually think, while we will see a few tornadoes, I don't think that's the headline. I think you're going to see, not in just Kentucky, but generally across the board here, I think you're going to see millions of dollars worth of hail damage. And that's not a hyperbole. That is genuinely the case. The hail that we're looking at for Sunday evening is not. I saw someone comment on my post earlier and said, "Oh, it's just some hail and wind. We're fine with that." No, that's not the case for Sunday into Monday. We're talking about the potential for up to tennis ball sized hail coming down in the middle of severe thunderstorms that are producing 65 to 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's absolutely enough to cause injuries to folks. That's absolutely enough to shred windows out of buildings. That's enough to cause damages to your vehicles. That's enough to cause a lot of money of damage, a lot of money worth of damage. So I don't want you to hear me say tornadoes aren't the main threat, and then you let your guard down. No, you can still get injuries. Hell, we've even seen, sorry for cussing, we've even seen deaths occur from hail. So I mean, do not, especially this level of hail, do not hear, "Hey, tornadoes aren't the main headline," and then start taking it back down. No, I think this is absolutely a considerable threat for Sunday into Monday, and I don't like to use those words lightly. And I'm hoping that over the next 24 hours, 36 hours, as we get new data in, that we start to see some weak points in this, which we already kind of do a little bit, but it's kind of wishful thinking at this point, and I'll show you what I mean by that here in a minute. But overall, I don't think the tornadoes will be the headline. Will we see a few tornadoes, and a couple of those might be strong or violent? Yes, and that just kind of tells you that even though we do have the possibility for strong or significant tornadoes, the hail and wind threat is so large with this that I still think the hail and wind threat is the main headline. And it's not just your casual everyday hail that we see here in Kentucky sometimes with that small quarter-sized hail. We're talking about the potential for up to tennis ball-sized hail and widespread golf ball-sized hail. We're talking about that sort of potential. All right. Now, again, before people do ask, we do have a day 6 risk pretty much for the same areas for Wednesday. And I'll bet you here in the next few days, we'll probably see another day 6 risk for next Saturday, probably for the same areas. You're going to see a training of storms over about a 72 to 96 hour period that's going to hit the same areas with the same impacts expected. I will say that Wednesday does look a bit more tornadic at this point, but that's so far out that we have to. Weather's like a dominoes. One has to fall, and then it can affect the next. So talking about Wednesday or next Saturday would be irresponsible for anyone to do at this point. All right. So once again, I do expect that as we get, I think tomorrow it will be day 2. So probably about 2 or 3. I think it's about 2 or 3 a.m. Eastern time. Look out for a post from us. That's when we'll have the 4-panel breakdown. So for example, something like this. So where we have the tornado outlooks and the hail outlooks and whatnot, you'll have those available. They're only available on day 1 and day 2, not day 3 and beyond. So that's why we don't have those at this moment. But overall, a significant threat, and I think the hail and damaging winds will be your main headlines. And of course, I do think tornadoes are going to occur, but I don't think they're going to be the main headlines like we're seeing with the hail and wind. So that's your SPC outlooks. Again, you can view that on WeatherWise radar there. Let's go ahead and look at the model data real quickly. I also do have the new SIPS model guidance to show you guys. Again, I'll get to that here in just a little bit. All right. Now, right now, the only short range model, what we call a convective allowing model, that can see this is a North American 3K model. Now, we'll tell you there are some biases to this model that may skew some of the images here. This model likes to overdo surface instability. It likes to do energy, basically. It likes to show more energy at the ground than what usually happens. All right. So what's the result from that is going to be a lot more aggressive imagery that you're about to see on this model. All right. So I don't want you to see this and absolutely freak out. I just want you to know this is the only model that can see it short range. So it's the only one that we can show at this point. Tomorrow, when we do a live broadcast, a live update with you guys, we'll be able to actually have the 8-strip alarm model, the rapid refresh model, all those models that are actually allowed to see this storm at that point, because a lot of these models only go out 24 to 48 hours. This one goes out to 60, and that's the only reason it can see it at this point. All right. So Saturday, by the way, a lot of you were asking about Saturday. Spotty rain showers in the morning and afternoon. And then by the time we get to the evening around sunset, a little bit more moderate rainfall occurring late Saturday night. And then it kind of fizzles out by the time it gets out toward West Virginia and Ohio and all those folks out there. And that's kind of out of the area by Sunday morning. Perhaps some spotty showers late Sunday morning going into the early afternoon. And then those should only occur east of I-65, kind of like how you're seeing here, Lexington and Somerset. By the way, the timestamps are up here in the top left if you want to see that. And of course, the dates right there as well. All right, advancing this forward, this is kind of where things begin to get a little bit blurry, okay? Because we don't know yet if we will see this rain right here still continue in central and western Kentucky until late Sunday afternoon. If it does, obviously that takes the severe risk a lot down for us. It won't take it completely away, but it will take it way down for us. All right. So that's one of those things that's kind of unclear at this point, just being transparent with you. We're not going to know that until almost the morning of. We're just not. You're not going to know that until the morning of, because you have to see how the environment is trending that morning. All right. Advance this forward. However, I will tell you that most models do have rain out of here by the time we get to about 2 p.m. on Sunday. And what that allows for is warm air to really shoot up into western and central Kentucky, all the way into Indiana, all the way up to the Great Lakes, really. I'll show you that here in just a second. And then you see what happens as a result of that on the western side of your screen here. Just immediately storms pop up. Once that warm air gets up to the cold front there, or to the dry line there, I should say, it sparks a line of storms that's going to produce significant weather. All right, that's valid for around 8 p.m. to Eastern time or so. By about 11 p.m. Eastern time, you can tell this absolute wall of storms has gotten generated out here in Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri, and it's taken a direct path at Kentucky at this point. All along this line is significant hail, damaging winds, and yes, embedded tornadoes where you see these little notches in here. That's where the model is trying to pick up on some more spin occurring. But I will tell you, I don't see a massive tornado threat with this, and the reason for that is, let me go ahead and skip here forward. I want to show you something real quickly. As you look at here, usually one of the busts, don't pay attention to this word, by the way, okay? All of this is going to spit out is tornado. All right. When you look at this here, this is a weather sounding. So this tells us what's happening at different layers of the atmosphere, layers being over here on the left side of your screen. And the one reason I don't think we're looking at a major tornado outbreak for this event in particular, can we still see tornadoes and significant tornadoes and violent tornadoes? Yes, absolutely. But I don't expect a major outbreak of tornadoes, and here's the reason why. So here are your wind directions as you go up into the atmosphere. Usually for tornadoes to occur, you need these winds down here to be pointing a different way than the rest of the winds as they go up into the atmosphere. That tells you that the winds at the ground are going one way, and the winds of the atmosphere are going the other way. That tells you that that entire column of air there is spinning and rotating, okay? And it can produce tornadic activity. The reason I don't think tornadic activity is extremely high with this event in particular, despite the fact that we still can get some, is you look at the winds, and yes, they're going a different way at the bottom than what they are right here, but then they go back to almost the same direction as they are at the surface. That is what we refer to as a veer back, veer winds. You're veering here, you're going back here, and you're veering here. So what that is going to work to try and do is to pull these storms into an elevated fashion and again produce hail and damaging winds. And yes, you can still get tornadoes and even significant tornadoes from that if one of these cells can get on the ground and change that column of air as it goes up. But the likelihood of it is less. Let me show you for an example. Let's go out and show you. Let's look at Wednesday real quickly, because this is where I do think tornadoes are a little bit more of a possibility. So let's go look at Wednesday real quickly. See if I can get a good sounding here by chance, just randomly clicking on one. Sort of, kind of. So this one's a marginal tornado, but the photograph looks a lot better. And look at the difference here. So you have the difference. You have the winds going basically south to north at the surface, but west to east pretty much all the way up throughout the entire column of the air. It doesn't change back. So that's the difference right there. So this tells us, once again, damaging winds and very large hail are the main threat for Sunday and Monday, whereas Wednesday might be more tornadic for us. All right, so that's kind of the difference there. Again, don't let your guard down. I think we will see a few tornadoes on Sunday and Monday, but an outbreak of them, I don't really see that happening. I do see an outbreak of very large hail and damaging winds. But as for tornadic activity, not really seeing that as much, but we still can get that to occur. So I want to make that very, very, very clear. And of course, this may change by the time we get that storm on land and it gets sampled. We may see different wind profiles than what we're seeing right now. So what I want to do now is kind of just take you throughout the Sunday afternoon time frame. 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., get on out here to 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. This is when the line approaches Western Kentucky. Some models have this already in Western Kentucky and Western Indiana at this point. The NAM 3K is traditionally a little bit slower with things. So I do imagine that this line will actually be more close to or already in to Western Kentucky at this point, producing significant weather. All right. And again, that's 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, I think this line will be a little bit closer to I-65 than what it shows at this point. Again, the NAM 3K is usually a little bit slower. But it's not necessarily the line that I'm looking at this point. It's this down here. And this is going to be a problem. If we see supercells or cells at all pop up in front of this line, this is where we could see tornadoes and perhaps even significant tornadoes to occur. Again, looking at this sounding here, I just want to kind of show you it's moist all the way up into the atmosphere with a little bit of a dry gap here, almost perfect for tornadoes to exist at that point. And in front of the line, there's a little bit more cape involved with this. If you see this number here lit up in yellow, that's a little bit more energy available for the storms. Storms are very tall, by the way, very, very tall, by the way. Again, helping to increase that hail threat. The taller the storm is, the more it could tap into cold air above it, and it is very cold at the top of that storm there. All right, so again, I know these kind of look funky, but I like to show a little bit of these on each broadcast we do, just kind of give you a basis of what we look at a little bit behind the scenes here. Obviously, there's more of that goes into it than just that. But it kind of gives you an idea that we don't just look at the pretty colors here. We actually do a little bit of math. You got to give us a little bit of credit. We do a little bit of something behind the desk here. Advances for this valve from midnight to 1 a.m. Again, I think this line will be a little bit faster than this. I think it will already be across I-65 at this point. But the NAM 3K model has it looking like this as it comes across here. And this is all very large hail and damaging winds across this entire line here, with, again, the chance of tornadoes occurring as this approaches I-65. So this is not going to be one of those storms. I want to make this clear. Typically, what we see is a storm is producing severe weather in Western Kentucky, Illinois, and Western Indiana. By the time this gets to the I-65 line, like Louisville, Elizabethtown, Bowling Green, these storms do tend to die down typically. Now, while I think it will start to weaken a smidge, I don't think it dies down enough at all to eliminate the severe threat. I think this keeps its strength for quite a while, probably until the I-75 corridor, which is like Lexington to Somerset area. All right. Again, across this entire line, damaging winds, large hail, perhaps tornadoes occurring anywhere from Paducah, Bowling Green to Elizabethtown, Louisville, up even toward, what am I thinking of up there? Oh my goodness, Carrollton, Florence, so on and so forth in northern Kentucky. And that's as far as this model can see. So let's go ahead and go out to the regular NAM model, which can see a little bit further, but it's not as precise or high res. Advance this forward. Again, has a line approaching I-65 between that midnight to 2 a.m. time frame, and then advancing out toward Lexington, Somerset by about 4 to 5 a.m. Eastern time or so. Again, I think it's going to be a little bit faster than what is showing up here. Again, it's not going to be as high res, but you can kind of look here real quickly. I just want to show you. Now, this is significant tornado parameter. Don't hear that and freak out. I'm just showing you this because it's very simple to see where the energy might be. Matter of fact, I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to show you the energy helicity index. This is better. So this kind of shows you where the best energy is going to be for Sunday. And as those storms get to the Western Kentucky portion of the area and even in Central Kentucky, you can see it really begins to peak out there in Western Kentucky. Basically Paducah to Murray to Mayfield to Henderson to Owensboro to Hopkinsville, so on and so forth. As these storms travel to the east, you'll see that energy does begin to spread out east, but also begins to weaken a little bit as well. And then as it gets to about Lexington and Somerset, that energy really dies down. So the East Kentucky portion of the area, I think you may see a couple of severe storms, but I'm not nearly as concerned about you as I am, let's say, in Central and Western Kentucky, because as you can see it for yourself, the energy helicity index really dies down, but really peaks out in Western Kentucky, really dies down out there in Eastern Kentucky. So that kind of shows you that. So that's the model right there. I'm going to show you the SIPS model guidance. This kind of points out to where the hot spots may be for severe weather. But before we do that, of course, we have to pay the bills here. It only takes 70 seconds. Make sure you stick around and you might hear something you like. I'll be back in 70 seconds. FBI Buildings has over a half a century of experience in renovating, remodeling, and rebuilding any residential and commercial building. They also can give your pole barns new life. If any disaster does hit, Be sure to go to FBIbuildings.com for a free quote. Digital Solutions in Radcliffe, Kentucky is a family-owned tech shop. Be sure to repair or purchase any device from them and keep the business local. Thank you to Kayla and her team for supporting W&K. It's a good idea after this harsh winter to make sure your roofs are ready to go for the springtime storms. If you're in or around Hardin County, make sure you check out Hyper Roofing at the link on your screen. And that link, by the way, will also be in the description below. I could list all of their accolades, but just know if I trust them and recommend them to you, that my word is good. Get ahead of the storms by making sure your home is ready for them. Right Implement has over 15 locations throughout all of Kentucky and making it convenient for you to go shop with them. They're our longest standing sponsor and we appreciate them so much for their support. They have so many things from outdoor apparel to outdoor vehicles to things to help you on your farm. Right Implement is such a phenomenal company and someone that you really want to support in Kentucky. Thank you so much to Right Implement and to all of our sponsors. We appreciate you. Let's get back into the video. Big shout out to our sponsors. That's how we're able to be here for you guys 24/7. So we hope you consider supporting them since they support us here at Weather Now Kentucky. What I want to show you now is the SIPS model guidance. This is one that's growing to be pretty popular in the weather world. So I believe it's going to start being shown more. Basically, what this model likes to try and do is take an event that it's seeing on model data, compare it to past analogs of past storms, and tries to spit out where it thinks, based on the history of storms that it's seen versus the model data that it's getting in, it tries to spit out where it thinks severe weather is going to occur. And usually that occurs in areas that you see as a 65% or higher, as you read down here. And then the more significant weather is basically once you start going over 75, and especially as you approach 85 and 90 on this index here, that's when perhaps damaging and critical weather can occur. And I made a post on this earlier, so I just want to update you that it has downtrended a bit, but it's still quite remarkable. By the time we get to about 5 o'clock on Sunday, it has a 75 out there in western and central Kentucky. By the time we get to about, what is that? I'm sorry. I can't even see. About 6 or 7 o'clock there. Does start showing some 80s occurring. Northern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, 75 for pretty much all of Central and Western Kentucky, 70 out there for Eastern Kentucky, and it really drops off out there and the Appalachians. As we head to about midnight or so, actually this is about 9 to 10 p.m., you see the Western Kentucky really starts to tick up there, and then about midnight or so, you'll really see a lot of these parameters begin to really tick up. The 90 that you're seeing there is quite remarkably high. That was up in Western Kentucky on the earlier runs. Now it's back down into Western Tennessee, Eastern Arkansas. Nonetheless, here, what all these fancy little spaghetti noodle numbers show you is that quite the severe risk is on the table for Sunday and Monday, and it's not hyperbole. It genuinely is on basically everything that we're looking at, and I'm trying to find flaws. And again, one thing that can help us out is those winds that I showed you, where it goes one way at the surface, one way in the mid layers, and back to the other way in the upper layers. That can help to work to rip storms apart a little bit. But with the overall amount of energy that we have at play and the timing, of course, the timing is I think anywhere between sunset to about 1 to 2 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday into Monday for most. So for those of you asking about timing, that's basically what we're looking at there. Again, from sunset on about Sunday to about 1 to 3 a.m. or so Eastern time on Monday morning. Again, that's going to vary. Obviously, it's going to be earlier for you folks in Western Kentucky, later for you folks in Central and Eastern Kentucky. You know, these storms are going to go northwest to southeast like they always do. And yes, it is another nighttime storm event. Most of our storm events and snow events are in the nighttime here, so that's not really any surprise to any of us. And again, here on your screen is the SPC outlook. It does show a hatched, basically large risk of any severe weather to occur, basically from Lexington and Maysville all the way to points west to Louisville, Elizabethtown, Bowling Green, Madisonville, Owensboro, Hopkinsville, Paducah, Murray, Mayfield, so on and so forth. And then, of course, it does have a severe risk out there for Eastern Kentucky, but it is much lower. All right, is there 2 rounds? No, but this will be quite long. I think the storms will be quite wide. I don't think they're going to be moving very fast either. I have to look at the storm motion. I have to refresh myself on that. But there might be a 1 to 2 hour window for a lot of folks or might be a 1 to 2 hour threat period for a lot of folks as these storms move to the east. I think they're going to be quite wide. So you might have a long duration of either hail or damaging winds or the potential for tornadic activity. Usually, it's one little quick thin line of storms, then it's out. But I think we're looking at basically one line, but it's one very slow, very thick, if you will, wide line of storms as it's moving to the east there. Likelihood of a tornado in Woodford County, I'm not going to get into that. Again, I do not do likelihoods by county. That's just a losing game right there. I will just tell you that, once again, I think the damaging winds and very large hail are the main headlines. I do think we'll see a few tornadoes somewhere in this red zone. Again, I don't think the tornadoes are going to be the headline, but they still will be quite dangerous given the amount of energy we have at play. If one can get rooted into that entire column that we talked about there, it may turn quite significant. But I do not do odds by county. This is for Sunday. That's correct. About sunset on Sunday to about 1 to 3 a.m. ish on Monday morning. Does the yellow stuff to worry about tornadoes? I think the yellow still at play to see severe weather. Obviously, the odds of it are just lower. Laura, the hail size right now indications are anything up to tennis ball size hail. That does not mean everyone that sees hail on Sunday night is going to see tennis ball sized hail. I think in the worst of it, you're going to see tennis ball sized hail. Might be a couple of small cells throughout the entire line there. Most folks will see anywhere between ping pong ball sized hail to golf ball sized hail, which is still quite significant. But obviously, tennis ball is a whole different category. Do you think specifically South Central Kentucky will get bad? I'll just say it's obviously in the red zone there. All modes are on the table, and everyone in this red and even the yellow zones. So pretty much everyone in Kentucky at this point needs to stay tuned to forecasts, again, to stay up to date. Because, again, I think this is a widespread state, pretty much state. What's the word I'm looking for there? Oh, my goodness. Statewide. Oh, my goodness. Uh, Threat for all modes of severe weather. Do you think storms will be bad for Louisiana, Kentucky? Again, I think this is a threat for all of Kentucky. So if you guys are going to ask me for locations, again, you're going to get the same answers as everyone else. I think this is a statewide threat. Obviously, the threat is greatest in that red zone, which you can see the cities in that red zone there. But again, I think this is a statewide sort of event. Yeah, Renji. Tornadoes. There's a reason tornadoes usually occur out in Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, even basically out to the Midwest there in the Great Plains. There's a reason that tornadoes like that area. It's not just by luck. Tornadoes love flat land and they hate having to go over elevations, which is why tornadoes are usually more prone out in Western Kentucky and less prone in Eastern Kentucky. 45 minutes east of Lexington. Yes, you will see strong. Again, this is a statewide threat, folks. The answer is going to be same for everyone. McCreary County's in the yellow. By the way, I do want to make a real quick point. If you don't have a weather radio already, go get your weather radio from Walmart. They're like 20 bucks. As long as they have that NOAA sticker on them, you'll see NOAA. Again, that may be a lifesaver for a lot of folks. I think there's going to be, quite a few power outages. We're talking about damaging winds and large hail can cause a lot of damages. So again, I think a weather radio is absolutely a great bet for a lot of folks. It's a small investment that could save your life. All right, flashlights, batteries, all that good stuff. Again, don't freak out. It's just a preparation type of ordeal. Obviously, if you live in a trailer on Sunday and you're in that red zone, or again, we'll update you as we get closer. Maybe find a different spot to stay at for Sunday night, going into Monday morning if you can. Of course, look up your local shelters by using Google. All right. Again, Cave City is the same as everyone else. I think this is a statewide threat for all modes of severe weather, with the headlines being, perhaps large hail and damaging winds. Is a weather radio more reliable than the emergency weather notifications on your phone? Yes. Again, the weather radio will work regardless of if cell towers or power goes out. Weather radios are always going to be the number one way to receive those notifications, because it'll sound a big old loud alarm if you fall asleep. Trust me, it will wake you up. And it's always, in my opinion, the best practice. Williamsburg is the same as everyone else, my friend. Will you autograph it if you ship it to me, Trenton? Of course, after the severe weather. Yeah, Maria, but it's great that you guys. We're trying to give you guys a heads up to make plans. My collar's like tucked in my shirt over here. Hello. we're trying to give you guys a heads up to make plans again. So I don't think there should be a lot of reason for people not to be in safe spots during this event because once again, we've been kind of talking about this for 2 or 3 days lately. Now we're starting to ramp it up, and a lot of folks have been talking about it for about a week. So I think everyone should have some sort of idea on what to expect. I got a fly just like annoying the crap out of me here. All right. Weather radio, you can usually find them at Walmart. As long as they have a NOAA sticker on them, you're good to go. And you can Google what station you're supposed to be on. All you have to do is Google I forget what is it called. Google is a great tool. Yeah, so like see here, I type in weather radio frequency for Hardin County, Kentucky, just for example, and it immediately pops up. So this will tell you what frequency you should be on, and then you just kind of leave it there, and then you have the alarm turned on, and trust me, it will wake you up. It will wake you up. Any chance of red shifts more east? Yeah, but I think it's pretty set in stone for now. Again, I think the storm is making landfall either right now or in a couple of hours, so you'll see more data come in, and I think you'll see a lot of forecasts make their final little wiggles. Um, and I think we'll be good to go there. Again, I don't think it really matters too much what color you're in. I think everyone needs to kind of just stay weather aware this weekend and paying attention to the forecast because I think this is a genuine statewide threat. With mainly maybe the exception of Pikeville, maybe out here toward Harlan, far eastern Kentucky. I have like a fly or mosquito, one of the two. We all had the windows open today, and I think a couple of them snuck in here. I think with the exception of this far eastern Kentucky area, I think everyone, so 90% of the state needs to pay attention. Again, timing it looks anywhere from sunset on Sunday to the overnight hours into Monday morning. Again, Amber, same Frankfurt's the same thing as everyone else. At play to see all modes of severe weather. Timing is what I just mentioned there. Again, I don't break down tornado odds by county, guys, because that's just not I can't that's you can't do that. You just can't do that. I can't break down tornado odds in Cave City either. I just guys, you can't do that. That's like trying to throw a needle into a haystack that's 5 miles away. That you just can't do that. That's why you see general outlooks like this. You can't break it down by county, guys. It's impossible, or else somebody would have already done that by now. Will this be like or worse than March 14th or 15th? Depends on where you live at. I think obviously for this being a statewide threat, this will be worse than March 14th or 15th. But again, I don't think I think it's a different system. I don't like compare systems too much because I think this is different. March 14th to 15th produced 150 tornadoes throughout all of Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and stuff. I don't think that's the case here. I think while we will see a few, maybe even strong tornadoes, I think the main headline is damaging winds and large hail. You think the SPC may upgrade the red zone? We'll know at about 2 or 3 a.m. this morning when they issued their day two outlook. When we actually get the four panels, the tornado outlook, the hail outlook, the wind outlook, and what's the other one I'm looking for? Oh, the general categorical outlook. We'll get that at about 3 a.m. You're in Western Kentucky. Would it be safe to go to Evansville, Indiana? Are you asking like if it's safer up there? No, you're in the same category of risk, and I think both of these areas are at play to see perhaps the peak of these storms. Why isn't the Weather Channel showing anything but a 40% chance of rain? I couldn't tell you, Abigail. I think the Weather Channel is one of the worst sources you could look at. I don't think anyone should be looking at the Weather Channel for any type of serious event. And that's not hate. It's just the Weather Channel looks at all this. They don't care about Kentucky. They don't. All right? We care about Kentucky. Stop looking at the Weather Channel, folks. Pro Rancher, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Have you put in your order for a fish fillet sandwich? Nope, I have not. I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to do better. I think I'm eating too much McDonald's. Yes, this is for late Sunday, around sunset on Sunday, going to about Monday morning in the overnight hours there. What time for Bowling Green? Again, sunset on about Sunday, going to about the overnight hours into Monday morning. Once the storm gets on the land, we'll make a timing map for you guys. All right. I think it's just really irresponsible at this point to make a timing map because the storm is just now making landfall. See all these ripples out here? It almost looks like a freaking hurricane. I mean, this is an impressive wave of energy. By the way, this is going to stall here, out here in the upper Pacific, and that's what's going to give us our constant storm chances, not only for Sunday and Monday, but of course Wednesday and perhaps even next Saturday. So multiple storm chances upcoming here um, in Kentucky over the next 7 to 8 days or so. Flash flooding is a concern with this. Not on this round in particular. I don't think flash flooding will be a big threat with this, but overall, there will be the potential for a flood threat. That's a great question. I do want to show you this again. Take this with a grain of salt because I don't want you to see this and think immediately, hey, I'm in E Town, for example. I'm going to see a foot of rain. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be close. Looks like it did come down a little bit, and thank God because the 12Z run was showing a ridiculous amount of rainfall. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, this is over a span of about 200 hours, but even on this run, so that was earlier this morning, or earlier this afternoon, I should say. This is the new run about a couple of hours ago. Look at the difference. So this is why you cannot look at just one model run. I think a solid 6 to 10 inches of rainfall might be possible over the next 7 to 8 days in Kentucky, and that's absolutely going to produce some issues, but it would probably be more toward later in the week, not necessarily right now. Again, we're heading into a very, very active pattern, folks. A very active pattern. In your opinion, do you think far western Kentucky will be put in a moderate risk with the current models? Um, Let me tell you where I think things may play out. Okay, and the reason I'm not afraid to do this right now is because I kind of drew this box 2 days ago for you guys. So I'm gonna use green. I think this is going to be your hardest hit areas from this event. So we're gonna start down here in Arkansas, come up here. We're gonna widen it out to the east here. I think this is going to be your area where you're going to see the highest target zone. I everything that we're looking at on models, this seems to be the area that I think you're definitely going to see a moderate. If the storms continue to trend like they are on model data, you're absolutely going to see a moderate. I just realized I didn't really drag the radar over enough. Whoops. But you can still see Western Kentucky at least. But I think this is going to be your biggest area. All right. And then in blue, I still think you're going to see quite the considerable threat from here. Basically, the rest of that red zone. Basically, there. I think it's going to be quite the considerable threat, again, for damaging winds, very large hail, maybe even a couple of tornadoes. All right, and then, of course, as it spreads to the east there, that's when it begins to weaken. Those are my current thoughts. That's what I've put out the last couple of days. My thoughts haven't changed yet, just because simply the storm has not made landfall or it has not been sampled yet. Was what I mean by that, basically. And once that does get sampled, we'll have a much better idea on what to expect. And that's why the National Weather Service is such a key player and such an important organization that we need to support because they do go out there and put weather balloons up in the storms for us. Get that information from those low pressures. Tell us everything that we need to know that we could put in the model data that we can spit out these images and save lives. So I'm gonna stop with my rant right there. But again, the National Weather Service is quite the organization that everyone needs to support. Will you be live during the hours of the storm? Of course I will be. Of course I will be. What's the hail size going to be for Louisville? Again, anything up to tennis ball size hail for anywhere in that red zone. I'm not going to break it down city by city like that. That is not a game I get into, folks. What weather app is the most accurate? None of them are. That's why I haven't made one. OMG, people, you can't predict your backyard. It's not even that. It's just that if we start breaking this thing down by city, I mean, you guys, I think there's like 120 counties in Kentucky. There's a reason that these big weather outlets and news stations don't cover all of Kentucky. They only do 20 counties at a time or 28 counties at a time or whatever it might be because it's impossible. That's why I don't like the national weather outlets. Like the Weather Channel and AccuWeather and stuff. It's impossible to cover that with accuracy. It's impossible. It's impossible. All right. Sorry, I'm in a more direct mood tonight because I don't. When it comes to events like this, I don't like confusing things. So I get more direct with things. You have to be psychic, exactly. And it's not that I can't or don't want to. It's just that it's irresponsible. You should look into making a weather app. The problem is they're so damn expensive. Sorry for cussing, but they're so expensive. They are so expensive. You guys have no idea. We are working on something in the background on basically a website where we can make a central hub on everything that you can pin to your phone like an app. But I'll probably never, just to be honest with you guys, I'll probably never make a weather app. One, they are a you know what to maintain. And number two, I don't want to just make a casual weather app. Like there's already hundreds out there on the market. And it's maybe if I had a bigger team, maybe. But it just at this point doesn't look like it. I do want to make a website where there's a central hub where you can get your daily information, of course, outlooks and so on and so forth, where it's all kind of right there in one place, and where you can pin it to your phone like an app. But I don't think we'll ever actually make a dedicated weather app. Okay, I think we're good there. We've been going for about 40 minutes here now. We're just kind of rambling. I do want to get back to looking at the new data coming in because I think tonight's data will give us a good idea, a good starting point, I suppose, is probably the better verbiage for that. Again, there is the potential for this to go the complete opposite way and weaken. However, I do not think there's a potential for this to go completely away. So I want everyone to stay weather aware, prepare for all of your emergencies, perhaps this weekend. Of course, the weather radio, flashlights, so on and so forth, and hope that you don't have to use them. But of course, you want to have them there in case you do. All right, I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. Thank you so much for tuning in to our broadcast. Until next time, stay safe, folks.